You're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a weekly podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even some true crime.
So we are back from a longer than usual break, and it had nothing to do with technical difficulties.
For once. If you remember the Aaron Hernandez episode where I asked Heather what Dad thought of her not knowing about football, well, apparently it killed him.
That didn't really kill him. Our dad did. If you don't follow us on social media, our dad did have a heart attack and pass away. He's been very, very ill for a couple years now, so it was kind of expected, but not really expected.
Yeah, it was one of those things where 11:30 at night on a Tuesday, I had 3 cops and a coroner knock on my door, and it still took me a while to grasp what it was that they were trying to tell me.
She actually opened her door with a gun in her hand, which the cop applauded her for.
Yeah, I explained that I have a true crime podcast, and I don't answer the door for anybody at night, or really during the day, without my gun. And just because they're dressed like a cop does not mean that I'm going to let my guard down. And he laughed and said that he appreciates my being diligent on my safety. And then I set my gun down.
Fun times. But not really.
No, not at all.
I think that it's kind of interesting that we picked this episode. Well, we already had this episode lined up, but since we missed a couple weeks, we just sort of picked which episode we was going to do since we missed a couple weeks of recording.
Yeah.
Because our family kind of has a history with knowing things about the future.
Right, and we've mentioned it in past episodes before about how whenever people die, we tend to know it beforehand.
Except neither one of us had any forewarning over this.
Yeah, not at all.
But we also have this weird thing in our family where people die around other people's birthdays. And Dad passed away just a few days after my birthday, so at least that trend kept up.
Yeah.
But to my knowledge, no one in our family received any of the normal warnings that someone was going to pass.
No. But according to the coroner, it happened extremely fast. He was sitting in his motorized power chair looking out the window and just literally fell over. Well, that's a downer for this episode, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know what? I think we've got a really exciting episode for our listeners. I don't know if you are as excited about it as I am, but
I am not.
I don't think either of us are very prepared for this episode.
I don't, and I apologize to our listeners. It's just been very hard to get back in the swing of life. Like, I don't know, my routine is just completely thrown.
Well, you know what? Let's throw some happy news in here for our listeners. You've got a major announcement.
I do. I got engaged last week.
Woo! Since our listeners can't hear that.
Yeah. My girls wrote my now fiance, but at the time he was my boyfriend, and they wrote him a note after Dad died, which I have to applaud him. He lives an hour away from me, and he works for the post office, so he gets up super early. Like, he has to be at work at 4 o'clock in the morning.
He is the reason your mail is late. But not really.
Not really. So he had just gone to sleep. Like, he had probably been asleep about an hour when I called to tell him about Dad's passing, and he stayed up on the phone with me all night long until he had to go to work the next day. And then he drove an hour to my house and surprised me after work, and then he just stayed with me until Monday when he had to get up to go to work again. And my girls stuck a note in his bag that said, I can't remember it exactly, but the gist of it was, well, my dad's not here to ask permission, so if he's seeking permission, they give it for him to propose. And so they conspired all week long on this proposal, and he surprised me. Later in the week, they took me to this beautiful, and I'll post a picture on Instagram, but they took me to this beautiful rock that you literally have to hike to it, and then you have to climb up it. But we got there right at sunset, and I had no clue what was happening, so it was a huge surprise when he came around the corner with a ring in his hand, and it was really sweet. And he got down on one knee and said,
they were supposed to have a band booster meeting that night.
yes.
And Abby has an emotional breakdown crying in order to convince Holly that the only thing that they have to do that night is to go hiking.
Yeah, to do senior.
Abby's a drama
senior
queen.
pictures, she said. So, but it was really sweet. And he got down on one knee, and he told me that he'd loved me since we were 16, and that, you know, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he's loved me since he was 16, and would love it if I would, be his wife. And it was really the sweetest thing ever. And Abby made a little sign that said she said yes and the date, and it's very sweet, and melted my cold dead heart.
But just a little bit.
Yeah. So he's a great guy, and I'm extremely lucky.
Okay, so tonight's episode is about divination.
Yay!
Woo! And for our listeners who are like, Deva, what? Divination is the practice of seeking out knowledge of the future or of unknown events or things using supernatural means.
Yeah. And
there are tons of ways. I have a book in front of me, the Encyclopedia of Divination and Soothsaying, and it's probably like 2 inches thick.
Wow.
Or more. I'm bad at measuring.
Yeah, neither one of us math well.
No. Thankfully, her children math really great.
Yeah.
They do all of our maths for us.
Yeah, Ernie has this alarm that you have to do a math problem before the alarm would shut up. And I just can't. It just makes me want to throw the phone, because I can't do math even when I'm not tired. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's the last thing I want to do is try to figure out my problem.
Something tells me that after they get married, she will probably shoot that alarm clock. It'll happen. Just wait.
I am not a morning person, that's for sure.
So there's a lot of ways to go about divination or fortune telling, as some would say.
Right. And this time of year we start seeing an odd type. Like, I don't even think that people realize that it is a form of divination that they're doing. Do you know what I'm about to say?
Weather prognosticating?
Yes, when they look at the woolly worm and they try to predict what the winter is going to be based on color and fluff of the worm.
Or persimmons. You look at the seed inside a persimmon. If it's spoon-shaped or knife-shaped, it's supposed to mean something about the weather. All of those...
I don't even know what a persimmon is.
It's a fruit from a tree. All of these are forms of divination. You are trying to gain knowledge about the future, in this case, winter, through a supernatural means. I think one is if a hornet's nest is built high, the snow's going to be bad, or... I think that's one of them.
High as in compared to what? Like, so if it's in my door, what's that?
Like, that's pretty high. Closer to the ground would be no chance of snow.
Oh. Okay.
But it's also getting Halloween time, so you'll see a lot of posts about Ouija boards.
Yeah. I'm just not a fan of Ouija
I've
boards.
played with one before. Actually, I have one sitting in the corner of my bedroom right now, and it was pretty fun. It wasn't scary. It wasn't terrifying. No one was possessed by Satan himself.
But was they possessed by a lesser demon?
No, but I'm 99.9% sure that Great Granny was not happy that I was playing with one. Because, yeah, she is the one who came through. We were nowhere near where Great Granny is buried or where she lived, but she came through, and she told everybody that I had a picture of her in my wallet. Now here's the fun part about that. I wasn't using the board at the time. I was sitting beside the people using the board taking notes. My purse was locked up in the car. No one had access to my car but me. And I had just found that picture that morning in my living room floor and tucked it into my wallet. So there is no way that the people who were working the board, who were using the board, could have known that that picture was in there.
Have you seen the meme about Ouija boards?
I haven't.
Oh, well, it's a little pink Ouija board, and it says apparently society thinks that playing with Barbie dolls is as safe as summoning demons.
Well, I can see that.
Or the recommended age to use a Ouija board is 8. So you need to be 21 to drink alcohol, but only 8 to summon demons.
I think, though, that a Ouija board has no more danger in it than any other form of divination.
Right.
I think it is on the same level as, water scrying or using a crystal ball or using a pendulum or tarot cards or just, doing an EVP session to try to contact a ghost. It is no different.
I don't know about other areas.
I think we have built up Ouija boards to be more dangerous than they are. And a lot of that comes from people like to brag and they like attention.
And so they create bigger stories
than bigger stories than what actually happened.
Yeah.
I actually would love to have a Ouija board session with Holly and the girls and film it for our YouTube channel, but Holly is not on board with this. So if you would like to see this, send us a message.
I think that it's funny living in Eastern Kentucky, and it may be this way in other areas as well. But living in Eastern Kentucky, we're pretty much in the Bible Belt still. And you get people who are adamantly against Ouija boards, tarot cards, psychics, any other number of versions of divination. But if somebody is pregnant, they will do a pendulum. Like
using their wedding
ring. Yeah. So like if it rotates one way, it's a girl. If it rotates another way, it's a boy. They have absolutely no problem with this, even though it is still a form of divination. They also have absolutely no problem using dowsing rods to find water or graves or yeah. Which is also a form of divination. That's just how Christianity in Eastern Kentucky is we like to pick and choose.
Don't you tell people you got tarot deck and suddenly you're Satan's mistress. Yeah. I actually have a pendulum and I have a set of dowsing rods. I actually keep a set of dowsing rods in the trunk of my car for emergencies.
I have never had a dowsing rod emergency.
Well, sometimes I'm out at the battlefield or somewhere and people are talking and they're like, it'd be great if we had some dowsing rods. And I'm like, I got you covered.
I've never had anybody say that to me.
No. You don't hang out with the right type of people.
Probably not. I do own some tarot cards.
I actually have a fun story about dowsing rods. A couple of years ago, somebody I know, their neighbor was having some trenches dug on their property. And in Kentucky, before you dig, you have to call a certain number and have all of the utility companies come out and mark where all the underground utilities are on your property. He did this, and the guy who came from the gas company used dowsing rods to locate the underground gas lines.
Oh.
Well, when they was using the ditch witch to dig the lines, or dig the trenches they need, they cut through the gas line. Because this guy was about 15 feet off from where the gas lines actually were. Thankfully, there was no explosion, no one was injured, but it could have been very bad. So, I don't recommend using dowsing rods as your sole means to locate underground utilities.
No. And I think that it's 411. No.
Yeah, that's the number. 411. Call before you dig.
Yeah.
Something I've done in the past, reading tea leaves.
I'm not very good at reading tea leaves, but I don't like tea, so it probably knows that I hate it.
Probably. I'm not a big fan of tea either, but I have read tea leaves before. I've never played around with crystal balls.
I haven't either, but it is actually on my Christmas wish list. I would love to have a crystal ball.
Your cats will just knock on the floor.
I know. I mean, I hate to say this. Like, please don't think that we're horrible people, but when we were at the funeral home, we had Dad cremated, and they were asking me what we were going to do with him afterwards, and they suggested putting him on my mantle. And I was like, I have cats. They would just knock him off into the floor, and then I would have to vacuum him up.
But, like, seriously, her cats would.
Yeah.
Her cats are jerks. I don't know. Halloween seems to be, like, the time that if you're going to play around with divination, people will try it then.
Yeah, and I would say, I wish we could get this episode up earlier, but we're recording it on the 12th, so there's absolutely no way I'm going to have this edited by tomorrow. But I would have loved to have had it up on Friday the 13th in October, but it's not happening.
Yeah. A couple years ago at our town fair, my sister and I had our tarot cards read by a woman with a really thick smoker's voice.
Well, she had about 5 packs of cigarettes on the table with her. It was interesting. I don't feel like I got anything out of the reading. I also don't feel like I really could understand what she was saying.
Yeah. It was almost, her voice was so gravelly that it was almost like she was speaking a different language.
Yeah.
I guess you could say seances is a form of divination.
Yeah.
Several years ago, and by several years ago I mean I was a child at the time, some friends of mine decided that we was going to have a seance. That's all well and good. I'm okay with that. I hadn't led any seances before, but I knew enough, just enough to be dangerous. So we decided to have one. I set the stage, blah, blah, blah. We gather around, and I asked the girls who they want to contact. And one girl excitedly says, Johnny Depp. Yeah, listeners, you just heard that. It was all I could do not bust out laughing at her while I explained that we can't contact Johnny Depp because Johnny Depp's still alive.
Yeah, I love that story, and we actually can contact Johnny Depp because his cousin is your godmother.
Yes, and we have met him before, but we just can't contact him in a seance. It doesn't work that way.
No. A form of divination that I've never gotten into is using ruins.
I haven't either. It's something that I would like to try my hand at. at some point. Actually, there's a couple that I'd like to try my hand at. Runes, lithomancy, where you're reading just stones, water scrying. Those are a few just off the top of my head that I can think of that I would really like to try at some point.
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah, ruins are kind of like.
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just gonna explain what it is.
Okay.
Okay. So, reading ruins is kind of like a tarot card, only they are. They're either engraved or printed or drawn or something, but it's on wooden tiles. I mean, it can be other forms of tiles, but wood is the preferred because it comes from nature. So you just kind of lay them out similar to reading a tarot card, only each piece of wood has just a drawing that is the Latin alphabet. So, anyway, that's kind of what that is.
So what you're saying is you want runes and a crystal ball for Christmas.
Yeah, well, I would really like the crystal ball, but not. I don't. The ruins is whatever.
I think that this is something that a lot of people have done before, and they didn't even realize that it's a form of divination. Bibliomancy. Do you know what that is, Holly?
I have no clue. What is that?
You pick a book at random, and you open it to a random page, and you point at the page.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever sentence you're pointing at, you read it, and it's supposed to have some relevance to whatever you're needing answered right then. I know a lot of people who do this with their Bible, and they have no idea that it is divination.
I was going to say the exact same thing, that there are people who do that with their Bible.
Yeah. I mean, I see it all the time on Facebook with friends of ours. Friends who would, call tarot cards the devil's tools, but yet they routinely just pick up a book, sometimes their Bible, and seek answers in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I was saying about the whole pendulum and dowsing rods, is people don't even, and the woolly worm.
Kentucky actually has a woolly worm festival.
Yeah, I'm not really for sure. Where is that at?
Beattyville?
That's what I was thinking. I think it was Beattyville.
Your children are being loud in the background.
I know. Abby has a friend over tonight. They are working on their senior display boards for marching band, because our last home game is this Friday, and it's senior night. And our school does a table, so each senior gets a table, and they can decorate it however they want, and it's on display throughout the whole game, so you can walk by and look at everybody's table. And I have been planning this table since she started marching band in 7th grade.
You're a little obsessed.
I am, but the actual execution of it, I've kind of turned over to her. She came up with the color scheme and the general theme, but yeah, the goal is, though, that she's going to have the best table there.
Of course, because she's fabulous.
Yeah. It's going to be less pictures than other people, but lots of stuff.
Well, I mean, she is. That's pretty much how she is.
Yeah.
So I wonder how many of our listeners read their horoscopes. If not daily, at least, on the semi-regular.
I am a typical Leo.
You are.
I am.
For those wondering, I'm a cusp. I was born on the last day you could be a Virgo, and the first day you could be a Libra. And I kind of switch back and forth about which one suits me the most. But, I really think, Holly, that we should take some time and go through and do some of these forms of divination that we can do Ouija board, tarot cards, and all that for our YouTube channel.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. Um, I think that would be
I
a good
think
thing.
our listeners, watchers, would be interested in seeing that. So,
Yeah, I mean, like,
do you think the divination is dangerous?
I think anything can be dangerous. Hell, walking down the street can be dangerous.
I agree. And I think that we don't think of tarot cards as being dangerous, but it can be. I think a lot of these is all in how you ask and what your intention with the knowledge is.
Yeah.
Like a few years ago at a reenactment, um, a guy, a good friend of mine, asked me to read his cards. And I did. And it almost led to him and his girlfriend breaking up right there. Yeah. Because the cards and presented, and I had to tell her that he was thinking about leaving her for a good friend of his. He ended up not, but I mean, he had been thinking about it for a long time, talking to this other girl for a long time, and his girlfriend suspected it. And when she saw the cards there, she knew exactly what he had asked. She knew exactly what they said, and I just sort of confirmed all of the suspicions for both of them, and they almost ended up breaking up. I think that there is a very real issue with some people becoming dependent on divination. You see that when psychic hotlines and stuff was really big.
Oh, yes. I actually knew people whose whose mothers got them in serious financial trouble because they were constantly calling that 1-900 number to talk to, was it, who was her, Dionne Warwick and her psychic friends, and that's just irresponsible.
Yes. Divination will never be a good substitute for making your own decisions and shaping your own future.
No.
I don't believe the future is, set in stone.
I mean, it's totally whatever you make of it.
Yeah, I mean, I do know people who have really relied on psychic hotlines to their detriment.
I can honestly say I've never called a psychic number. I've never, other than, that tarot reading that we did last year, I have never sought out any kind of psychic reading that I haven't done myself.
I mean, I've done readings for other people. It's not something I've ever charged for and will probably ever charge for. Morally, it doesn't seem right to me to charge people for that. I mean, I know other people do, and that's fine. That's your life. Live it however you want to. Just for me personally, it is not something that I feel comfortable doing. But I think, as someone who does this for myself and for other people, you really have to weigh why you want the information that you're seeking.
Yeah, see, I think that has a larger bearing on the results that you're going to get. Like, what are you wanting out of it? What's your ultimate goal, and how are you going to react if you get the information that you don't necessarily want to hear?
Exactly. And I often wonder if the people who have bad experiences with Ouija boards are people who are there seeking out a scare. Because Listen, spirits, they'll give you what you want sometimes. They like to have some fun. Um, I'm not one of these people that believe, oh, it takes spirits so much energy to manifest, blah, 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 blah. No. They're on a completely different plane than us. They have the power of the universe, there.
They don't need us.
But I think that sometimes they really like playing with us. I know of nobody personally I know people who say they have had some scary experiences with Ouija boards, but I know of nobody who's been physically hurt while using them. And most of the people I know who have had scary experiences with the Ouija boards, their scary experiences is tame compared to some of my just regular run-ins with spirits. If any of our friends who may be thinking this is about you, I'm sorry, I'm not calling you a pansy. Maybe I kind of am a little bit. I'm sorry. I don't know. I personally think that Ouija boards are fun. The one I have was handmade, and it's a nice box that you can store all your other divination tools inside of, and but I have a hard time finding people that will use it with me because there's such a stigma that it's dangerous.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with them, and I just don't like to use them.
But why are you uncomfortable with them? Do you think it's because there's such a stigma?
Possibly. I mean, it's not necessarily it's not that I think we're summoning a demon. It's not that I think that we're more likely to summon somebody dead from that Ouija board than than what I could get just sitting in my house.
Just sitting in your house and saying, hey, is there a demon around?
Right. I mean, I'm not even saying demon. We'll just say, I know that when my next door neighbor died, I know that she found her way here. We've seen her, we've heard her.
They actually saw her and heard her before they realized that she was dead.
Yeah. Super sweet lady. I still miss her.
Holly's girls called me one night and was like, honey, there's a new ghost in the house.
So it's not that I'm afraid that using the Ouija board will bring anything worse than that here. I just think that it's a difference of, if a ghost or spirit wants to talk to me, well, they know where I'm at. I don't need to go looking for them.
True. But I think a lot of people that turn to Ouija boards don't realize that, or haven't unblocked that part of themselves that allows them to see and connect with the other side. I actually had a conversation about this, not about Ouija boards, but about contacting spirits with one of our aunts when I went to drop off something of Dad's to her. And we was talking about how we couldn't imagine not being able to see and understand and connect with spirits.
I'm going to tell you, it's blissful.
But isn't it also a little weird to just be going through life and not knowing, not being able to see things that are around you?
No, it's not. See, we may have mentioned this on the podcast before, but maybe not. I have been able to shut it off. So there was probably a good, I don't know, maybe decade of my life where I didn't see, didn't hear, didn't experience anything. And I could go to sleep every night and know that I was not going to wake up and see a dead person standing by my bed. I knew that I could, walk into a house and not feel anything. It was a good feeling. It was a nice, peaceful, restful feeling. Because unlike Heather, I don't like this. I am not a fan of being able to see things and hear things, and I don't like it. I don't want to believe in ghosts. But I have to because I've experienced it. I just don't want to. This is a gift I do not want. And so for about 10 years I was able to shut it away and not experience it. And then Abby was probably, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, she was somewhere in school, and she started seeing and hearing and experiencing things, and it was freaking her out. So I don't even remember how I know how I turned it off. I just said I don't want it. I don't want to see anything. I don't want to hear anything. I'm done with it. And it went away, and I wasn't able to experience anything, but I don't remember exactly what I said to get it back. But I knew that I had to because she was freaked out, so I needed to.
And I did not live close enough to her to be there for her all the time.
Yeah, so I needed to be able to. I needed to be able to experience what she was seeing, so I could help her through it. But I did not. I didn't want to. But it's just those things that you do for your kids.
Emmy always seemed to have an easier time with it than Abby.
Yeah. But I mean, Emmy she's just a laid back kid. Like, I really feel like the craziest thing that you could possibly imagine could happen in our front yard, and she'd be like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, she's just always been that kid that nothing.
They witnessed a pretty gnarly wreck once. The car literally flipped through the air, and when the car came to a rest, Emmy just said, "Well, that's why we don't have flying cars."
Yes, we were driving. It was a 3-lane road, I think. Like, one, it was the lane that we were in had 2 lanes, and then the next one coming at us was just a 1 lane. And a car came up beside us, and it was kind of going really slow. And I remember just looking over at it like, that's odd. Like, how it's driving is really weird. And it just veered off, almost like in slow motion, drove up a road sign, flipped in the air, and then landed back on its wheels. And Abby and I were like, "What?" And I just started to call 911, and Emmy was just like, "Well, that's why we don't have flying cars." But the driver of the car was fine.
So, besides tarot every now and then, have you tried any other forms of divination? I know you're not one to believe the woolly worm.
No, I do not believe in the woolly worm at all. No, actually, I don't. Well, I mean, astrology. I'm not a huge believer in my horoscope, but I do read it on occasion. The horoscope that you get in the newspaper is not. It's not good. It's usually just some kind of stupid blanket. Not even really a horoscope, but I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. Like a guide or something, like instead of here's a horoscope, it's like, I just don't believe in newspaper horoscopes at all. I have been around people who have used dowsing rods, but like you said, I mean, I don't think that they're 100%. Like, I have seen them work to find whales, but
our mom, actually, that's how their well at their house was found. And it was nasty water, but hey, it was water. It found water.
Yeah. I think that I have tried. Did you say bibliomancy, where you open a
Yeah.
book? I've done that before. I don't know. I don't remember when I did it or what was the outcome of it, but
Oh, I know when we both tried. Remember that snowstorm where we got snowed in for like a month?
uh huh.
Candles.
Oh yeah,
Um, we used a couple different ways to foretell the future with candles. One was just asking yes or no questions and seeing how the flame behaved. And another was pouring the wax into water and then reading the pattern that was left by the cold wax.
yeah.
Different shapes mean different things.
That was also when we tried tea leaves, but
Yes.
I couldn't read anything.
No. Our mom tried to teach us tea leaves. I'm marginally good at it. I'd probably be better if I practiced a little bit more. Our mom is very good at telling people's future using a regular deck of playing cards.
I don't think that she has done it any since she married the guy that she is married to.
I don't think so either, but I'm sure she probably still knows how. She married one of those types who firmly believe in dowsing rods, but all other manner of divination is the devil's tools.
Yeah. And we're evil because we say fuck.
Well, I mean, and because we are firmly rooted in the paranormal.
Well, true.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a guy whose ancestors killed his wife and stuck him in a trunk. So,
True story.
yeah, which will probably be an episode at some point.
It was wrote about in one of those old true crime magazines from like the 70s.
Yeah, I told Mom I was not buying a cedar chest for them for a wedding present.
Do you want a cedar chest as a wedding present?
Nah, that's okay.
I actually do have a cedar chest. It's my boyfriend's grandmother's. It is in our back room. And it is full of quilts and blankets. So if he tried to kill me and stuff me in it, he'd have to find a place for all those things first.
Yeah, that's just too much work.
And we will try really hard the next time me and Holly get together. We live just over an hour apart, so we can't get together often. But we'll try to put together a video of us testing out a few divination tools, methods. If y'all would like that, I think it'd be fun.
I think that it would be fun.
I wonder if we can get this together before Halloween.
Possibly.
Because I do need to get up there and pick up Dad.
Yeah.
That sounds weird.
I know, it does. He was in my front seat yesterday, and I went to Ernie's, and when I got back in the car, I was like, "Hey, Dad, how you doing?" And he was like, "Oh my God, Holly, that sounds so awful." And
I'm sure. Wait, you mean Ernie meant that was so awful, right? Not Dad.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, Dad probably thought it was awful too, but he didn't say. And when I picked Emmy up from school, like I had just picked him up, and he was sitting in the front seat, and she gets in the car, and she was like, "Oh, this is a pretty bag. What is this?" And I said, "That's your papa." And she was like, "Oh, well, I guess he's sitting on my lap."
We get off on really weird tangents on these episodes, Holly.
Yeah, we do.
But I don't know. I enjoy, like, almost every. I have not tried a form of divination that I absolutely hate. Most of them I've tried, I really enjoy. Like I said, I have a pendulum, but a lot of times I just use. I take my necklace off, and I slide the pendant down to one side, and I'll use that.
Well, that's cool.
Because sometimes you're in a lurch and you really need to know something, but you don't have your tools of the trade with you.
Right.
Um, I think that all of our listeners, I really encourage you, all of you, experiment a little bit with this. Even if it's just, simple yes/no questions using a pendulum or, looking at your tea leaves. It's fun. I mean, it can be fun. But
I mean, I think it
have
is.
have realistic goals with the questions you ask. And realize that none of this is a stand-in for just good common sense.
Right.
Okay, we do have a stupid criminal this week. It was actually just sent to me.
Okay, that's good because I did not have a stupid criminal this week.
No. This happened in the lovely state of Iowa. And
Oh,
I'm not saying that as a joke. I really think that Iowa is a beautiful state. We have been there before.
we have.
Iowa State Patrol pulled over a man in Des Moines after a high-speed car pursuit, and he told the state troopers that he instigated the car chase because it was on his bucket list.
Okay.
Yeah. They tried to pull him over for a very minor violation on Interstate 80, and he would not stop. He led police on a 15-minute chase that ended with him being put in nice shiny silver handcuffs.
That is not on my bucket list.
It is not on my bucket list, but I will say that every time blue lights flash on behind me, my first instinct is to run. Why is that?
I don't know because that's not what I think.
What's your first thought?
Where can I pull over?
Oh. For the record, Holly has probably been pulled over a lot more than I have.
Listen, I went to traffic school 9 months pregnant. I have not been pulled over recently. Probably the last time was about 3 years ago.
The last time I was pulled over, actually, I think it was about 3 years ago too. I was coming back from a choir concert that the girls had been in, and I get pulled over I pulled in at my vet's office. And it was late. It was like, 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that? Maybe midnight. It was late. I was the only car driving through town. And they pulled me over because he said that he saw me swerve in the road.
Well, because you were probably drunk on Mountain Dew.
Totally. Actually, it was Peach Crush in the glass bottle.
The hard stuff.
Yes. Before that, I got pulled over maybe a year before that. Coming back from a friend's house. Also about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I get pulled over. And as soon as they release me, the dispatcher, who I knew at the time, texted me and said, what are you doing out so late? And then, apparently that cop is pulling over like everybody he saw that night. Everybody. It was a slow night for him, and he was just on the prowl for a drunk. He was really let down with me. Because guess what? I don't drink and drive. Ever.
As you should not.
I realize that I'm really lame, that I've only ever been pulled over like maybe 3 times in my whole life.
It's not as cool as you think it is.
I've never got a ticket.
Oh God, I've gotten lots of tickets. Again, I went to traffic school 9 months pregnant.
But you've not been pulled over in a long time.
No. I really do try to follow the rules. Well,
Well, I am not putting a high-speed chase on my bucket list, and I will work really hard to not just speed off and leave cops in a cloud of dust in my little Kia Soul when they flash the blue lights behind me.
Okay, that's always a good thing. Your
Because
number
they
one
could
thought should be find a place to park.
find a place that is safe for both you and the cop.
Yeah, because you don't want them to get hit while they're trying to give you a ticket.
Yeah, I have some friends who are cops, and I know of at least one of them who has been ran over at a traffic stop. It's not cool.
Well, I mean, getting run over is not cool. Anyway.
No. I think we've got a really awesome episode for next week. I don't remember what it is because we're kind of off our game. Thanks
True.
for bearing with us this week. We'll be better next week, we promise.
Yep. If you would like to have your own podcast, don't forget about Podbean.
Podcasting is cool.
It is. Podcasting is the new blogging.
Yay!
Yeah. So if you would like to have your very own podcast, go to podbean.com and use the code HauntedFamilyPB, and we will get just a small percentage of.
It costs you nothing extra, but it does help us out a little bit. Podcasting is not cheap.
No, it is a very expensive hobby.
But it is very fun. We would not have it any other way.
And actually, both of us are talking about having spin-off podcasts separate from our Haunted Family podcast.
We'll still make Haunted Family Podcast a weekly podcast. It's not going anywhere.
No, but Heather is thinking of having a homesteading podcast.
Because if I've not mentioned it on an episode that you listen to, I live on a farm.
And Ernie and I are talking about having our own football podcast where, we talk about football.
That sounds lame.
No, that sounds awesome. I'm going to make you listen to it.
I might learn something.
Yeah. I mean, I just still can't get over that you don't understand it. So, yeah, I'm going to make you listen to it.
Is this because I don't know what a
tight end is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, big shout out to California for being our number one listener.
Woo! Yay, month. California!
Woo! We love you. Kentucky, you're holding your own. Thank you. You are just barely in the top 10.
Oh, well. See, that's how you know that we don't try to pad our listeners with just our friends.
I don't know if I've actually told many of my friends that we podcast.
I tell the ones that I think would be interested in a paranormal true crime podcast. Otherwise, I don't bother telling them. I mean, I told the sheriff and the coroner the other day that I had a podcast, but they didn't really seem interested in it, so I didn't go any further with, telling them about it.
We're definitely not a podcast for everybody. We understand that. It takes a very special person to want true crime and paranormal. Although, me personally, I think the two go hand in hand.
I think so too.
We do have a YouTube channel if you want to catch us on YouTube. Currently, it is just the audio from our podcasts. But we do hope to eventually start adding more videos of us doing actual stuff. That'd be fun.
It would.
We are Haunted Family Podcast there also.
Haunted Family Podcast on Instagram, on Facebook.
Pretty much anywhere that you want to be, we're there, and we are Haunted Family Podcast.
If you would like to, I will be posting pictures from my surprise engagement on our Instagram. So, if you care and you want to see it, you might want to follow us on Instagram. If you don't care, then you might not want to follow us then.
If you don't care, join us on Instagram anyway. We post some fun stuff.
We do. It is October, and if you are like me and black cats are your favorite cats, or maybe they're not your favorite, but you care about what happens to them, and you maybe have one or two, be careful about letting them out this month, because it is the number one month for black cat murders. People are stupid and superstitious and mean, and they don't.
A lot of animal shelters won't even adopt black cats out during this time.
Right. Yeah. So I have two. Actually, I have one black cat now because I'm no longer fostering the other black cat. She finally went home to her family.
So sad.
But I know. So I don't let my black cat out during the month of October at all. And you probably shouldn't either, because it's the number one month for black cat deaths, and just keep your baby safe. And then November 1st, you can let them outside again. That's just my public service announcement for the episode.
If you are in the New Bedford area, our friend Luann has some exciting paranormal things happening this month. I will share a link to it on our Instagram page. You might be interested. She'll be doing several appearances at various libraries, talking about the history and ghosts of Southeast Massachusetts.
Fun stuff. If you have not checked out Luann's book,
Dead Whispers, Ghostly EVPs, under her pen name A.E. Angel, and it comes with a audio CD of some of her best EVPs, and she has captured some amazing Class A EVPs. Amazing. This woman really should be considered one of the leading experts in EVPs in the world right now. She does not get the credit that she deserves.
No, but she's really she's an amazing person, and she is an amazing paranormal investigator. And if you are lucky enough to be in the New England area, you really should check her out.
Yeah. Even so far, if you need your house investigated, call her. She's great. She is a great person to work with.
Yeah, she's one of those people that she cares about the living and the dead, so she'll take good care of you.
Okay, well, it's been fun talking to you all tonight. We really appreciate all of our listeners. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.